Hello and welcome to part 3 of Connect MVC to Database video series. Now, at this point, we've covered part 1 and 2, whereby part 1 we were creating this application and connecting it to the database and actually retrieving data from the database. So actually, this is the first part that we did to actually retrieve data from the database. So if you're only watching this now, please watch the first video and the second one so that you are in line with whatever that we are doing at this point. And then the second video, we had to get details of a single student, whereby we create a method that will only return one record of data. So that is our part 2. Now on part 3, we would like to create a new student into a database. Right? Now let's flip to Visual Studio and create this CRUD operation or the create operation. Right, so I'm still going to make use of my DB layer class. Right, so I'm going to go to my DB layer and I'm just going to collapse the get student method. Now I need another method that will actually add data to the database. So this is the create function. So I'm going to make public. Now what will be the return type? So the purpose of the method is just to add data. I'm not going to get anything back unless if I want to get how many records were added or something like that. But at the moment I'll keep it as void. So I'm going to say add student, and let's pass a student object here. So we'll first create a student object and add that student object. Say st. Right. So we're gonna need our SQL statement and obviously our connection. So that's what I'm gonna do. This time I'm gonna make use of the using code structure. So I'm gonna say SQL connection, my connection, equals to new SQL connection, and this will take our connection string. Now what do I need inside here? I will need an SQL command. So this is the shortest code ever. So 3 of these SQL commands, insert, delete, update, they don't really take much of or too many lines of code. So SQL command, so I'll call this insert or cmd insert equals to new SQL command. Right, and again here I need to pass the string and also the command. So I can just take this thing here. And then I'm going to make use of the string interpolation so that I can use the placeholders. So I'm going to say insert into students. So insert into students. Then, so I'm going to add all the values, so I don't have to specify which columns that I'm going to add. Let's say values, and then I need to specify my attributes now. So the ID is of type string. I'm going to make use of that and say st dot student ID, then go to the next one, and then again this is a string as well, so I'm going to do that st dot first name, st dot last name, and then st dot the user type. Right, so user type is an int, so I don't need the single quotes. So I'm gonna pass my connection here, my connection, and that is done there. And then I'm gonna say my connection dot open, and then I'm gonna call my insert command cmd set.execute non-query. Execute non-query. Right, so I'm done. So I don't have to say connection close because this will be disposed here at this line of code. So I think this is all we need from this. So let's go and create a view which will help us insert data into the database. So I'm going to go back to my student controller. Right. Right. So I'm going to have this method, or this action will actually open the page, and the second one, which takes the form collections, will actually help us to get details from the controls and actually run the logic. All right. So I'm going to create a form or a page view that will help us create. So I'm going to right click and say view, raise a view, and then create. And then I'm going to select the template. This will be create, and then required should be student, and then add. Right, our page has been created. We have the student there as a model. Now, first thing that we need to do for this one is to actually give names to our input. So we have student ID, so I'm going to give the name attribute. So name equals to, so I'm going to make use of txt, let's say student ID, and then let's go to the first name. Name equals to txt first name, and name equals to txt last name, and then user type, we don't really have to specify the user type. So for student, we don't need a user type. So student ID, first name, last name, right? So user type by default, it will be 3. Now let's go back to our student controller. So this was helping us to create. This is going to navigate to the page and to actually perform the CRUD operation or the create operation. We'll make use of this method. As you can see, it has a decoration of HTTP post. So this will post the data from the form to the controller, and the controller will actually perform the logic to store it inside the database. Right. So I need 3 variables, which are student ID, first name, and then last name. Right. I'm going to say string. I'm going to call it ID, or we can say stid equals to. I'm going to go to my collection and get the indexer of form, then get string first name equals to collection, and then get the name of that control, and then the last one, string last name, equals to collection, and then there. Right, so let me go and get the names. So txt student ID. Let me just, to avoid spelling errors, so first name, and then last name. Right. So once we get this, we will then need to create a student object and actually call this method. But as you can see, this method requires a student or a variable of type student. So we need to create that student first. So I'm going to say student st equals to new student, and actually create stid, and I'm gonna call first name and then last name, right there. And then what else do we need? Okay, yeah, so user type by default it is 3. Now I'm gonna call the db helper dot add student, and then pass the st that we've created. All right. So at the moment we have our student object, and we're going to pass the student object there. And then, so this code was actually generated for us, but what it means, so it will have this line of code, right? So this will be executed, but then should happen that anything goes wrong here, it will just return the same view, which is create. So the name of the view is create, unless if we want to maybe return a specific view. So let's see. So this will actually return to a specific action. So the name of the action is index, right? So it will go to the index action, and let's see what happens inside the index action. It will return a list of students. So meaning, if this is successful, we will see an index page which contains the list of students with the newly added student. All right, so I'm gonna do that, and now let's see if our navigation works. So let's go to the create. So ASP action create. Okay, that's fine. So let's run our application and see. I forgot to build the app, but I think it should be fine. Let's see. Right, so this is what we have. So I'm gonna create new. Right, so student ID, I'm gonna say S, and then right, and then we have the create button. Right, so there we go. Here's our newly added student. So Roger Federer has been added, and we go to details, student, there, and then back to that. Right, so at the moment we are able to add a new student to the database. So far we have covered the select, whereby we select all the students from the database or all the data from a database. And then we also covered the details where we select a single student from a database. And now we have covered the create functionality. Alright, so we can add a student into the database. So far we are left with the delete and update. Right, so stay tuned for those other CRUD operations. And this is all for now, and thank you for watching.